If you're like me, you've got contacts in every single possible format. Email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it's becoming harder and harder to stay on top of them. To help me make sense of this mess, I use Smarter Contacts, the free app that automatically creates rich profiles for all my contacts right on my smartphone. The thing I love most about this app are the rich profiles it creates. I can see photos, job titles, company details, and updates from social networks all in one place, all in context. This is a free app and available on all mobile platforms. Head to www.untether.tv/smarter to download it today. Hello everybody and welcome to Untether.tv. I'm your host, Rob Woodbridge, also the founder. This is that place every day where you're going to find some great content on the mobile industry. Some of the guys that are pioneering, the companies that are pioneering the way that we interact with the air. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it. You know, the companies and the people that are inventing as we are learning how to use these devices, the pioneers. This is the greatest time, I think, to be alive and in technology. And all these companies are coming here to talk and explain how they do these things, why they're doing these things, and how you can maybe leverage a little bit for your own business, understand it for your own business so that you can benefit from this great industry. Totally stoked. Absolutely excited to have the guest today, as I am every time we have a guest. But you have probably used this piece of software. If you are anywhere on the planet and you know it, you've been sitting in a shop and you've heard a song come over the radio, and you're like, what is that song? Well, you've probably launched an app called Shazam, right on your iPhone, right on all your devices, and you've probably launched that app. And because you're one of 170 million people that have done that. And I have today David Jones, who's the EVP of Marketing for Shazam Entertainment, to come on and talk about how disruptive this technology is to the advertising and marketing space. David, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you coming, telling your story.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
Well, I am excited about this because I've done a couple of blog posts, and I do something called the Mobile Minute, where I've talked about Shazam as a complete advertising marketing disruptor. And for those people who don't know what Shazam is, which is astounding, what is Shazam? How would you describe Shazam?
Well, Shazam is the world's largest music discovery company, and so 175 million people around the world have used Shazam to answer that age-old question, what's that song? In a matter of seconds, we identify it, whether it's the radio, a public place, any music source. We identify what it is. You can instantly, from that point on, go on to buy the song, get more information, watch the YouTube videos. It's been phenomenal. We've answered that age-old problem over 2.5 billion times. And we just keep on growing. The tag volumes are off the charts, 5 million times a day. People Shazam song. And what's fascinating to me and to us as a company is that 8% of the folks go on to buy the track or the album. So we sell over $100 million of digital music through iTunes and Amazon. But that makes us the largest mobile affiliate for iTunes, for example. So people don't just discover music to identify it. They get the lyrics. They go on to buy it. They watch YouTube videos, those types of things. So that's what we're known for. And then in the last year plus, we've gotten into Shazamming television shows and television ads, which essentially expands Shazam from being a music discovery company to being a media discovery company. And we're on the path to the point where in the future you'll be able to Shazam anything and everything, whether it's discovering it, whether it's engaging or interacting with something. We're well on our way as we move from music into television and other mediums or media to basically make Shazam the go-to app, the first app you launch to engage with and discover something.
Well, so much in there, and I'm going to pull back a second, but I got to say that you can identify almost every form of medium, because I'll tell you, when I sing into Shazam, it has no idea what I'm doing. Right? It cannot detect anything. Whatever I'm hearing in my head and is different than what comes out of my mouth, which is clearly different from what Shazam needs to understand what the song is. So obviously, it is it's an incredible application. And when you guys, how long has the company been in business for?
Founded in 2000, launched in 2002. So coming up on 11 years of actually being in the market.
And so, but really, I mean, the inflection point was mobile, obviously, right?
Yeah, originally it was a toll-free telephone call, and you got the answer as a text message. That's
Nice.
the service back in 2002. Then we were built into a bunch of different handsets and carrier implementations in the mid-2000s. And then, no question, with Apple and the App Store that launched July of 2008, we made a bet early on to build an app for the iPhone. It was a huge success. Thankfully, Apple shone a light on it, included Shazam in one of their television commercials, and from that point on, it just the spark led to a forest fire, and we've been growing like crazy ever since.
So 175 million people have downloaded this application. 2.5 billion songs scanned.
Identified. Yeah, exactly.
And $100 million in affiliate revenue. So you said that you're driving 8% a conversion rate from the people who scan to the people who buy. So
let me just one thing there though. It's $100 million in digital sales.
Yeah.
We make a single digit small percentage of that, but it helps pay the bills and keep the lights on.
Yeah, but when you talk about value chain for Apple, right? That's you're contributing to their bottom line. When you ask them a question, they're more likely to answer because you're contributing that kind of flow through.
Yeah, we've been a long-term partner, driving quite a bit of gross revenues for Apple and especially their iTunes business. So yeah, we have good relationships with them and different groups, and yes, we float some ideas their way. They come to us. It's a good two-way dialogue. We're really pleased with the relationship.
I can imagine. And even though, I mean, it's about influence and the conversion rate of 8% from scan to buy. Are you seeing that increase as people get much more comfortable with this kind of technology, purchasing through the devices, or has it been pretty steady?
It's been fairly steady and consistent. It varies by platform. 8% is our average. It's lower on some other platforms where there's more friction, quite frankly, where the actual buying of music means you might have to download another app, or they don't have your credit card information the first time. Right. Obviously, Apple has nailed this from you have an iTunes account, they have your credit card. You probably had an iPod device before you had an iPhone, and so your music's all in one place, and so it's just very easy to tag a song, click one button, we take you to the right place within iTunes to buy the track or the album or to explore other music from the artist, and it's just a password away. So iTunes has really nailed it.
Yeah, they have. And when you talk about mobile commerce, certainly they've done a great job of enabling that from the device. We're all used to this right now. But so the transition from was that always? I got to ask this question. Was that always the revenue model, which was a affiliate or sales like this? Was that the revenue model to begin with? I know you've only been there since 2010, and it's probably changed since then. But it seems logical that was a part of the revenue model.
Yeah, so it's our core three revenue models back in the core music business were we had a paid app, a premium app that you could pay $5.99 for a lifetime version of our premium app. You had affiliate revenues primarily from purchasing music, but also from ticket sales in some cases, and then advertising and sponsorships. And so historically, advertising has been the smallest of those three revenue streams. We're kind of turning the pyramid upside down here and focusing much more on advertising and sponsorships and affiliate revenues and much less on the premium app. That's one of the reasons why back in April and Android and September for iPhone, we went unlimited on our free clients. So there's no longer a 5 tag per month limit. It's unlimited tagging. You can use all the features as much as you'd like. And the thinking there is we want Shazam to be part of your daily lives, something you use regularly, not just for music on the radio, but you can Shazam any music to get the synchronized lyrics. You can Shazam television shows and ads. We didn't want you counting tag results and figuring that out. We wanted you just to use Shazam as much as possible with all these different forms of media and have it become an even stronger habit. And so that's what why we shifted away from having a freemium model and really investing in the free app being a great Now that you can Shazam television shows and ads, I I think we'll get into this, I hope, but advertisers are paying us six figures to make their television ad Shazamable. And so that's a major new revenue stream for us. It's made possible because there are 175 million people walking around with Shazam on their phone. And essentially, it's so easy now to Shazam a TV ad that this is a new revenue stream that's based on the massive reach we have because of the core music proposition.
Well, I mean, there's so much there, and yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about that because the evolution, and I think this is where we get into the core, really disruptive uses of something like Shazam. But I'm very interested in before we get past this. I mean, when you guys moved from I paid for Shazam, I paid the $6 unlimited, and you moved from the freemium model. Is that a kind of a is that an indication about the way that the app industry is going when it comes to this? Is that, people used to think that you can make a lot of money, and there are corner cases of people making a lot of money in the app market. Everybody uses Angry Birds. I'm going to use it here because it's a corner case, and nobody can think of the second one, right? And there are. But was that just a realization that, listen, we're not going to be 100 million or 200 million or $1 billion company by selling $6 apps. So we have to change our model. Was that the thinking behind this?
We didn't change the model because of that. I mean, the business strategy started with music and is getting into media, and we realized along the way that unlimited tagging and advertising and affiliates were our core new revenue streams for the future. That's how we go from being valued what we are today to be a multi-billion-dollar business, is to tap into some of these new revenue streams beyond music, even though there's still plenty of runway, if you want to view it this way, plenty of runway in music, because if there's 6 billion devices in the world, we have 175 million users, which is phenomenal, and the fourth most downloaded app of all time on iTunes, on the iOS platform. Yet we still only have about, what is that, 3 or 4% penetration into the world's mobile devices for music. So we're still investing in music.
Okay. But so was it a hard transition that you made? Was it hard to? Let me check that question. I'll come back to that. But when you guys moved from a freemium or a 4-pay app, with a 5 scan limit, into a completely open, what happened to your numbers at that point?
Well, certainly the number of new users and the retention rates and the activity levels all went up, and we modeled it in advance, based on what we knew and what we could think through. And it was a big risk in the sense that we were foregoing future known revenues for revenues that are tied to activity and retention and total user base, and that is advertising and affiliate revenues. But it's paid off. It's an investment we've made. It's actually cost millions of dollars to ramp up the infrastructure to support the tag volumes and some opportunity costs and revenues. But we're making that up on the other revenue streams and the strategic value of an even larger user base using us every day to tag more things. So that's all going per plan. It was carefully planned, but it's all going very well.
Yeah, I ask because oftentimes companies they're looking at their revenue stream, and revenue does things. Focus on revenue does things to people. I believe that you need a business model, and you need to be smart about this. But relying on a business that is wrong but is generating revenue. Kind of constrains your decision-making process. So you know that the pain is going to be here, but that you've capped your growth limit, and that you've got to get over here where it's completely open, and you can dive into it, and you can create new product and create new engagements, audience engagement. But it sometimes is very hard to let go of that piece that's driving revenue, and that's why I ask. But it seems like you guys just kind of said, you know what? We know the potential is. We've decided where our revenue is going to be, and it isn't here. It's up here, and there's a gap, and we're gonna have to suck it up and bite that and just move.
No, that's exactly what happened, and thankfully we've got a board of directors and a series of financial investors who want to be up here as you just described. They a multi-billion-dollar company, and to get there you make certain decisions.
Yeah. Sometimes they're tough, but when you've got an idea, when you got a plan. So I want to take one step back here. How did you end up at Shazam? I mean, so Friendster, you restarted Friendster back in 2006 or so. I mean, what was it about Shazam that really drew you in, or how did you get engaged with these guys?
Yeah, me personally. So yeah, so my history is from the '90s, management consulting in the telecom industry and the internet industries as it was being born, or certainly in the formative days. 2000 and 2002 was Blue Wireless, a startup in voice-activated and wireless data applications, quite frankly, long before quote-unquote apps existed, but you were still building things for mobile devices, and they were just white-labeled or built into the phones themselves. Then from '02 to '06, I was at eBay. I ran the entertainment business, the entertainment vertical there for a while, which included music and television, movies, and books and tickets. So it was a great experience there to run the entertainment vertical for eBay for 2 of my 4 years there, and some other marketing roles on the buyer and the seller side. Then took on a rather tough challenge in 2006. Part of the team, the exec team that restarted Friendster after some early success, but then some hiccups. We retooled the infrastructure in '06, relaunched, actually grew it to be the 8th largest website of any kind in the world, and of course the #1 social network in Asia. And back in late 2009, sold it off to an Asian conglomerate out of Malaysia that really valued the user base and all the activity engagement over there. So tough challenge to rebuild the brand, rebuild the reputation, actually restart growth, and to get it over the finish line with a liquidity event and a sale. But fantastic experience for me. So coming from Friendster, looking at what's out there, what was next. Kleiner Perkins was interested in me staying in the portfolio of its portfolio companies. I knew the recruiter that was recruiting for this particular role. I had other offers, but boy, there's no question that Shazam was onto something. A fun industry, great business. Basically, the wind at its back, filling the sails. And it was a great opportunity for me to come in and help take it to the next level, along with some of the other new execs that have joined in the last 2 years, and about half our employees are new since in the last 2 years. So it's been fantastic, and love my job. Don't think of it as a job, and very fortunate.
Paving the way as you would. I mean, when you came in 2010, was the vision clear for you that you were going to move into this kind of entertainment place, the television, the advertisements? Was that laid out, or were you still really? Was it appealing that just the music recognition and discovery?
When I joined, I mean, I love the core music business, but I also was excited about the potential for television and other forms of media. At the time, we had only done a single TV ad campaign that had shown promise, and they actually extended their campaign because of the fact that it was Shazamable. It was a Dockers ad in 2010, and so that was the first indication that some medium and long-term strategy and thinking for the business, there might be something there. We went on to flesh it out. We worked with NBC Universal on making Warehouse 13 and Eureka shows on the Sci-Fi Channel, Shazamable. We continue to test a couple of ideas on both advertisers and shows from that point forward. And here we are, a year and a half later, with over 50 major second screen interactive, customized second screen experiences. We've done dozens of ad campaigns, over a dozen TV shows and TV events. We've done movie launches, music videos with Lil Wayne and Justin Bieber that are Shazamable. I mean, all sorts of things, and it's proven quite confidently that the technology works. It works for a wide variety of reasons, because enough people have Shazam already on their phones, and that it's so easy to use. There's no friction. You just press a button. We instantly identify what you're listening to or watching, and from there we can start a rich, satisfying experience, whether it's engaging in television show content or shopping from your couch if it's an Old Navy commercial, for example.
So I got to ask, I want to dive into this, because I think, from an advertiser's perspective, I'd like to know what you think that Shazam is going to do and have an impact on advertising and traditional advertising in television, as you said, the commerce aspect of it, as well as, extending brands and conversations beyond what you're watching on television. I've often said, that, that gap, that 6-foot gap between you and your television set doesn't seem like such a great distance, but it is the biggest crevice between us. Like, it's so deep because of that two-way interaction. And cable companies aren't going to change. Televisions, they've tried to add touchscreen and add computers to it, but still something's missing. And this is really one of those big pieces that bridges that gap. But I have to ask, before we get into that, here's my trailer, my teaser. You got 175 million users. Mm-hmm. That's an insane number. There are companies out there that have 10,000 users, right? 10,000 active engaged users, or 1,000. When did you look at this and think, okay, what's our threshold for revenue generation? Where does it all of a sudden come? What does that number have to be, or did it seem like it had to be for you guys, where all of a sudden advertisers like NBC, or like broadcasters like NBC, or advertisers like Old Navy, or Dockers come to you guys? Where's that turning point for you? Do you remember?
I don't know what the number was back then, but we were trialing things with shows and advertisers along the way in the last 18 months, and it became clear that enough people had Shazam on their phones. Over 30% of all iPhones in the United States have Shazam on them.
That's incredible.
Each and every one of them was put on there by the user. It wasn't pre-installed, so we're in a very good, fortunate place in that respect, and because advertisers and television shows have tried to promote their own apps, and they know how hard it is, even if they're taking on air real estate and inventory away from selling it to an advertiser and using it to promote their own apps, it's really tough to drive those downloads. And it's really tough, once you've driven the downloads, to have a good experience that keeps them coming back for more and to retain those users. And so with Shazam, you can go, let me back up. You can go promote your own app. You can go work with some of the TV check-in apps at the other end of the spectrum, where just checking in, saying you're watching a show, and maybe posting or tweeting about it. Those experiences haven't taken off, and those apps are struggling. In the middle is the sweet spot. You've got 60 million users in the United States, people in the United States with Shazam on their phone, that all they have to do is press one button and they're off to the races. They're engaging with your content, whether you're a show or an advertiser. And so it's the reach, it's the ease, it's the lack of friction. That's what's so exciting about this, quite frankly. You asked about television advertisers. They spend sometimes $40 million on a TV ad campaign. And the old adage of, I know TV works, but I don't know which half of my budget is working, it's true. And, essentially television ads have never been clickable like the performance marketing we do online, whether it's display advertising and social media. You can track all of that stuff. In the case of television, it works, but you can't track who's actually engaging. You can see, thanks to Nielsen, who's viewing your ads, and you know where you placed your ads, but you don't know who's interacting or expressing interest in your ads. When you put a 5-second animated graphic on the screen of an ad like Old Navy and all our advertisers do, it just says Shazam now or shop to buy, whatever it might do. That little visual clue lets people know that they can Shazam the ad or the show, and the engagement starts from there. And so we actually know who's actually interested in the ad, watching a given show or a given channel in which the ad airs. We know interest level, not just who's been exposed to the ad, and that's very powerful to the advertiser. And then beyond that, we even know precisely what time of day, what zip code they're tagging, and so we're sitting on a gold mine of data as to who's interested in that advertiser's ads, whether it's an ad shown in 30 Rock or American Idol or some other channel or network. So we know which ad placements are performing better from an interest and interactivity perspective, which could be scary to some advertisers, certainly some agencies who, this is new information to evaluate how things are going. But it's incredibly valuable to the agencies and to the brands as to who's engaging with their ads. But let me just back up. One key thing. Up until last year, TV ads were not clickable, but because of Shazam, we can make an ad clickable, and instantly, in a couple of seconds, with one button, pressing the Shazam app, you're off to a rich experience to shop the looks of the actors and the actresses in an Old Navy commercial, to get a quote from Progressive, to find the nearest location for a Toyota dealership, to learn more about the Chevy Volt, whatever it might be. One button, a few seconds later, and we can drop the user wherever the advertiser wants them within the funnel.
All right, I got to ask, when we're talking about the transition, right? So Shazam has been long known as a music discovery application, right? So hold it up to the speaker. You moved into lyrics. This was natural. The data that you collected must have been incredible. Like, you knew almost immediately from all your users what songs were popular, what songs were on decline, week over week, day over day. You could almost program radio stations with the data that you were collecting, right? And interest level, and you could actually predict probably what songs would be bought, what top of the charts. I love data, and when you wrap analytics, it's very valuable. But so you're known as this, a music discovery application, and then now you're transitioning over to this, which is a media interactive, like as you said, to make ads click. I mean, how would you describe what this is, and what was the transition, from the brand perspective when you went out to these advertisers and said, networks, and said, yeah, we are this, but we're also this. Was there confusion?
Yeah. There is. It's a natural extension to the use case that people already have today, which is 85% of our active users actually do Shazam television shows and ads for the music today. So they're already Shazamming for the music, and so it's a natural extension to just Shazam for a different reason. Right. Of course, we need our people to learn what those different new use cases are. So it's up to us to get the word out to our users. And that's why the television shows and the advertisers are taking a couple of seconds to promote the fact that it's Shazamable and giving the value proposition actually on the screen. Shazam for a free download, Shazam for exclusive content, Shazam for scenes for the upcoming season of Grey's Anatomy. Whatever the call to action will be, it's got to be on screen, and they get it, and they'll take out their phone and start to use it. So over time, more and more shows, more and more ad campaigns will be Shazamable. I hope a year or two from now, it will be ingrained in everyone's psyche and actions and habits that they won't, that the calls to action on screen actually won't be necessary anymore. But for the time being, we're making a market. It's important that those experiences are satisfying experiences, so they'll come back and do it again. That's why we're crafting these experiences carefully with the shows and with the advertisers. Like I said, over time, I think people will know what it's about. It's not just discovery in terms of what's that show I'm watching or what's that ad that I'm seeing. They know that it's a different type of engagement. It's not discovering what it is. It's just going deeper. It's experiencing more. It's getting more information or buying the product or what have you.
So what about we talked about metrics a little bit before, because you're collecting this, and I make the assumption that, like everybody else, that this is collected under it's an anonymous collection, and right. You guys adhere to all that, and I think that my listeners and viewers know that. Listen, it's this is not malicious intent. You don't grow to your size with that. So. But you brought up a really good point about the advertisers. Is that they made a lot of money. The agencies selling advertisement and with that kind of, hey, it can't be measured. So do you think that they're hesitant? And this is an opinion. Do you think they're hesitant to find out these metrics about really what how many people are actually influenced by these ads?
There'll be people in all the different camps. I think some people are enthusiastically can't wait to see what's happening, to learn more and to diagnose it. The performance marketer and the CMOs out there, a lot of them are very interested in this information and how to do better over time and ready for a change. Of course, the entire industry is predicated on Nielsen metrics and a world that traditionally hasn't been clickable. So where interest level is hard to measure, and it's just exposure and ultimate results. So I'm sure some people are hesitant, perhaps even scared. We're working with advertisers who are excited about trying this, and we have several repeat advertisers because it works. And as things grow, I think the industry will change and embrace these types of new metrics and ways of doing business. It's incredibly powerful when you think about how you could spend your television ad budget much more efficiently based on where your ad is resonating, not just who's seen it.
Yep.
And I think that's really important.
Well, I mean, I think that so everything that I've watched you guys do over the last number of years, especially with Shazam, what you're doing with Shazam for television and advertisers, this is so disruptive. And I'm not really talking about just you know, clickable ads. Because if you were just doing clickable ads, I think, okay, well, you know, it's nifty, it's neat, it extends that brand. I can find out more information, I can purchase something, and I think that commerce is a key component. But I see at some point, through services like Shazam, the influence changing the way that ads are made, ads are sold. So no longer 30-second segments or 60-second segments or ads. I mean, we're talking about 10-second segments, 2-second segments, that when the technology is there, so you know, it's almost immediate, that it's baked into every device, that you know, there's ambient listening, which might be fearful for some, but that the advertisement industry changes, and you know, whatever it is, you can get your point across in 10 seconds, but the rest of it happens on the device or whatever screen I'm sitting with. Do you see it happening like that? Do you see, you know, fundamentally advertising changing because of the way that you guys are allowing interaction with the television?
Oh, I expect we'll see many of those types of things over time. I think on the one hand, it's early days because while it's proven and we've done scores of campaigns, obviously it's not pervasive yet. So I think over time you'll see many changes. I'm not sure if it's in the length or the format or the style. There is direct response television out there where they're trying to get you to dial an 800 number, trying to get you to like them on Facebook or go to this URL or type in that code to this short code. Or hold up the screen to a QR code, line it up perfectly, and press the button.
Oh, I missed!
Yes. I mean, you know, in essence, those are all the things that brands are trying to get you to do today to actually turn brand advertising into you know, to get you to respond. We compete favorably with that because we use the audio to automatically do that. And so, you know, friction slows so many things down. We are overcoming that friction in so many different ways and all forms of audio related advertising, including television. And I think it's very powerful. So we'll see what happens in terms of, you know, what do things look like 2 years from now. But I think you'll see everyone wants to take that 15 or 30-second spot and turn it into a 4-minute engagement. And Shazam can do that. It's happening on a second screen. It's not directly in front of you on television. And it may not happen at that moment in time. It may be delayed, because when you Shazam an ad, it's saved in your tag list for later. And when you're standing in line at Starbucks or waiting for a meeting to start, you can go back to that and do the engagement later. And we see that happening actually in the numbers, both immediate results as well as delayed viewing, or even going back a second and third time. So I think programming that second screen experience, jumping out of the TV into your hands, onto the mobile device, you'll see a lot more of that happening. We're looking forward to working with even more innovative advertisers and television shows to actually think about taking the mythology behind a new television show or layers of details behind a TV ad and unfolding it, if you will, on the second screen or other media besides the television is incredible, and that's the opportunity.
Well, think about you know, I like to speculate on these things because I think mobile moves industries and certainly disrupts it, and certainly, you know, people call this the third screen. Some people call it the fourth screen. I call it the first screen because I look at this certainly more than any other screen, except for maybe the monitors.
So that we got them all covered.
Yeah. But it's a very interesting proposition to think that at some point, you know, that adage that you said that, you know, 50% of advertising work, but you just don't know which 50% works. That I wonder if we've come to a point where it is now, it really is a one-on-one relationship. When I scan a song with Shazam, when I tag a song, you've reached me. One-to-one, my location, my spot, you know my preference, you know that I don't know that song. And then when I go through to transaction, that's a one-on-one transaction as opposed to a mass broadcast where I go hunt for it and then I go and eventually get to a store and buy it. And I think that, could we see a point in time where entertainment is like that, where I'm in a movie theater, I'm watching a television show, there aren't distracting ads on the TV show, there aren't distracting ads in a movie, but I look up and I'm like, wow, that screen right there, whatever's on that screen, I Shazam at that moment, and it's like it detects where I am in that movie, detects the theater that I'm at and the city that I'm at, and it says, okay, that guy's wearing Levi's, that guy's wearing this shirt, he's wearing Banana Republic, those are Burberry glasses, and that's a Mac iBook or iBook or a MacBook Pro, 23.1 inch screen, and here's the inventory of somebody that of a retailer that has all that stuff inside of your city, store that for later, right? Like that kind of experience is probably the pinnacle for what you guys are building.
Yeah, I mean, that's not outside the realm of possibility at all. Product placement in movies and music is just one of the types of content that you can access instantly by using Shazam. We're doing that already in some early stage work, but it's just going to get easier and easier as all these things come together. And a lot of it relies. I mean, a lot of what you just described is relies on perfect access to information. That metadata exists. What is that actor or actress wearing? Or where was this scene filmed? What's that restaurant? What's the car? I mean, all this stuff. If we can get it together and capture that before the broadcast or during the broadcast, if it's live, we can feed on that and kind of drive activity around all those sorts of things. I think we talk a lot about advertising, making Shazam, television ads Shazamable. There's an entire world of new revenue opportunities for Shazam and driving through partners, actual commerce, making it easy to buy exactly what you see on screen, whether we're taking you to their mobile optimized, storefront, or whether we facilitate that some other way directly. But there's a big part of the future revenue streams for Shazam around whether it's an affiliate revenue share, but definitely commerce, driving that commerce and making it so easy.
Yeah, and I think that if mobile isn't driving engagement, deeper engagement, so that's brand building between a brand and a consumer, or commerce, I mean, get out of the way, right? I mean, right. You just don't want to replicate what's going on right now, which is maybe I'll buy, maybe I won't. But you want to be able to influence that decision, just like the 8% conversion rate from tagging a song. You want to be able to say, listen, you know what? When somebody tags a commercial, it's a 72% conversion rate for those shoes, right? Or whatever it is. The other side of this, which is really interesting to me, is content, right? So I'm a content provider here. I put out a whole lot of content every week on Untethered.tv. And so for me, it's also about how Shazam is going to disrupt things like the DVD market, right? Because if I'm watching a movie and I want extras or alternate endings or scenes or bloopers, that to me should be Shazamable, right? I should be able to Shazam it and get the deleted scenes downloaded. Maybe I pay 99 cents if I'm watching it on TV. These are new revenue opportunities that traditionally I had to go out and spend $60 on a DVD, but now I'm watching, say, Cars on television, and they have that little blooper reel that they always do, Pixar does. I want to be able to Shazam that, pay 99 cents, and get that as on my tablet or something to that extent. Do you see that plays into your revenue as well?
Well, I think it will over time. Yeah. In the short term, we've been trialing different things with television shows and with movies, movie companies and the movies themselves, where some of the best content that people want to engage with when they Shazam a television show is, for example, judges' deliberations in a contest show, or the full performances, right. Or the bloopers.
Enhanced content.
All of that great content, because, I mean, think about it. They film all this great content, and so much of it ends up on the editing room floor simply because they have to cram all this great content.
Unless you're James Cameron. And then he just puts it all in there.
There you go.
Or George Lucas, yeah.
But yeah, so that's part of, if you're interested, if you're a fan of a show, you can get more information through Shazam or through their mobile optimized websites. A lot of times they would park it on their websites and mobile optimized websites, but no one was going there. Again, back to the friction issue of you have to remember, you have to launch a browser, type in the URL, or go find it. That's a lot of work. And so if you can just Shazam to instantly get that content, that's great. So all of that, think of the DVD bonus content for a DVD metaphor. All of that stuff still applies for television shows and events, and that's one of the key value propositions and things that work for users. It's funny you mentioned DVDs. The Glee DVD that was just released before Christmas actually has several Shazamable moments built right into it, and we worked with them on that, and it's a great way to kind of extend, again, beyond what you're just watching the DVD to get to bonus content and further engagement. So that was our first DVD that was Shazamable. We have movie trailers that are Shazamable. Great example is Chipwrecked. I love saying that word, so I'm going to say it twice. Chipwrecked, Alvin and the Chipmunks. All their commercials leading up to and through Christmas were Shazamable, and that was a perfect way of turning a 30-second commercial into a 2 or 3 minute trailer or a 4 million engagement, where you can save it on your calendar, go to Fandango and buy tickets. I mean, it simply makes sense, and we can do it now, and Shazam is doing it.
I just think that one of the signs for me that that something sticks. Aside from the 175 million users and 2.5 billion tags, I think you got something here, right? In case you didn't know before.
We're very fortunate.
Yeah, but it's like when you start to see the potential and the possibility about how, we talk a lot, at least on this show and a bunch of other things that, an industry website about frictionless commerce, like making it as simple and as easy to adopt and not behavioral changing, right? You don't want people to change their behaviors. If I'm sitting back on a couch, I already push my button on the remote control, right? It's not very hard to think about just pushing one button to get all this information, this wealth of information on a device. But I've seen some. You alluded to it before, the QR codes. I mean, I've laughed at this since I've heard about it, and some have chastised me about it. But it's Billy Ray Cyrus. He did this made-for-TV movie with where it was a QR code scan as an engagement, and the guy who did this, or the company that did this, God bless him, because he's just like, he tried. And he said, like, I've had hundreds of scans. And I'm like, don't tell anybody you've had hundreds of scans, because that means to me it's a failure. But then again, it's a Billy Ray Cyrus movie. So, but the QR code has a place. And I don't think that the QR code is on television. Whereas something like what you're doing, you can tag anything. And, I mean, what other technologies, is there any other technology that fits this? That you guys can implement, that Shazam can be, like, it's TV, it could be on a train somewhere, it's music. Where else do you see this going?
Well, let me cover a couple of those questions. First of all, QR code. First, I applaud anyone experimenting and trying new things. I think that's good, and people should do more, not less. Having said that, I think QR codes have their place, I think, in print media, billboards and magazines, those types of things on the airplane when you're flipping through whatever magazine might be there. That's fine. I don't think it has its place in video and television. It's because there are simply better ways to do it, and because of the friction involved. In the case of the QR code, holding up your camera, launching the app, lining it up perfectly, it's just too much work.
Yep.
When there's an alternative out there like Shazam, where you press a button, it's audio content recognition, and away you go. Now, what are some of the other technologies out there? Well, when it comes to television advertising and trying to drive engagement, yes, you're competing with remembering to go to a store someplace when you see it. You're competing with typing something into Google and doing a search, remembering URL and typing that in, remembering a telephone number and calling it. You're also competing with short codes and sending a text off to a short code. And then I think finally our QR codes are there. So that's the realm of how television advertisers try to get you to engage and get started beyond the commercial. I think Shazam fits in there nicely, and we're demonstrating that that's easier than almost all of those combined. I hope to have more data to share here publicly. That just how much more compelling Shazamming something is versus those other methods. But we're proving it every day with our advertisers and our television show partners, and it's working.
All right, last question, and then I promise, David, I'll let you go. I mean, when you start to look at some of the results that you've had, I'm not asking about results, but I'm asking about how do companies start to use Shazam and this technology? I know that I read that up to a third or a third of the ads in the upcoming Super Bowl are going to be Shazamable. And so obviously this is taking a life of its own, but how do companies start to work with this to enhance their brand?
Well, first of all, it's Super Bowl as one example. It's the most expensive time slot to buy. It is not just the biggest game for national football. It's the biggest night for television advertising. So it's where a lot of experimentation happens, but it's also so expensive that some people actually want to do what they what they think they want to do. So I think you'll see many Super Bowl ads Shazamable. We're working with several different companies today, and we'll reveal more once that becomes public. But what's so powerful here is that you can take that expensive $3.5 million per 30-second spot. You can take that 30 seconds and again turn it into 4 minutes, or get people engaged with a sweepstakes or a product and getting more information. It really is. It takes that first step of a commercial and turns it into the next steps and sends you on your way. Some advertisers love it. Some are hesitating, but for the most part, this is the place where people go big or go home, and you'll see some pretty exciting television ads during the Super Bowl that are Shazamable.
Now, couldn't you just say, like, I want to tag the Super Bowl and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm going to ask this. Is that I'll give you a fair warning, and don't feel compelled to answer this. I'd like you if you could, but couldn't you really just say, listen, Super Bowl is one thing, but say CSI, I'm watching CSI. Couldn't I just, as an advertiser with Shazam, just say, look, okay, like anytime you hear this guy's voice, just throw up my ad. Like everything becomes Shazamable, where I don't need a network, I don't need an ad. I start to think about that kind of stuff where it's tagged, and so Shazam can almost become a secondary ad network for people who can't afford to be really on TV, but can want to be on the second screen.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the Super Bowl. So not just select ads in the Super Bowl are going to be Shazamable. The game itself is Shazamable. The halftime show is going to be Shazamable. These are firsts. These are new things that Shazam has launched.
Was that from the network, or was that just you guys doing that?
We are doing that in conjunction with various players involved in putting this together. Yeah. But so when you Shazam the game itself, you'll be able to get stats for the game and more information about the game side by side on the second screen while you're watching the game. Yeah. Same for the halftime show. It's one of the biggest performances of the year that any artist can do. Madonna's there. I suspect she'll have other artists join her at some point, if past performances are any indication of what's coming. But fantastic performance that people have tried Shazamming in the past. This time they're going to be able to get a rich experience around the halftime show, so you can go see some of Madonna's music, download her app, some other aspects to the halftime show. So these are exciting things and first that we're rolling out on one of the biggest nights of the year.
But that's the Shazam ad network, right? When you start to get up to 300, 400 million users, worldwide, and maybe 150 or 200 million users inside of the United States or North America, all of a sudden, that's clout, and that is like, when they're looking at deciding between $3.5 million for an ad and whatever it's going to cost to be in a Shazam ad with a little bit more interactivity, you guys start to move up. And that's why I think that when it comes to ad networks and agencies and broadcasters, is that Shazam, if you don't see this, is going to be one of the biggest disruptions to traditional advertising that we've ever seen. That's the way I believe.
Couldn't agree more, and you're right. You could, as a brand, buy a certain show, network, what have you, when we have some competitive issues that we need to just navigate around. Right, but for the most part, if you're Procter & Gamble or Pepsi or Coke and you wanted to buy your way into the Shazam results of certain shows or certain networks, that's absolutely something that we can target and support today. And as things scale, that gets really interesting. So there's a whole new network, the Shazam advertising opportunity. I'm not going to call it an ad network yet, but that makes a lot of sense for an advertiser to be able to buy positioning, if you will, on these television show results. That's very powerful.
God, there's so many things that are kind of not attacking, but encroaching on traditional broadcast networks, and certainly advertising like this. Like, there's going to be a point in time when that Super Bowl isn't going to be able to charge $3.5 million because of all the auxiliary networks that are around it. That people are still having are getting a tremendous amount of value and exposure to their audience. Like, I'm in Canada, so we don't get the great ads. So really, the Super Bowl is just a football game for us, a big football game. But if I can participate in a secondary network like a Shazam network or Shazam ads, where I get enhanced content based on my location and my proclivity to buy, that becomes very powerful. And that's why when people ask me about, what's a disruptive company? Why do you think Shazam is so disruptive? It's like music. I'm like, no, man. They got users, they got distribution, they got an ability to tag, they're building out advertisers, they're testing it with traditional ads on television, and at some point, these guys are going to be the biggest ad network, whatever you want to call, in North America, perhaps on the planet, just because of their user base. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you left one thing out, which is we have mobile. We know where you are generally, where you opt in to tell us where you are when you're tagging things, and we have social. So between those two things on top of everything you said, it's exciting times for Shazam and for the industry.
God, I love it. All right, so if you haven't downloaded it, I implore you, just go and try it. It's a cross-platform, right? It's available on all platforms.
All 7 major platforms, yes.
Yeah. So wherever you are, wherever you buy, wherever you download your applications, it's free. But just go to, I guess, send them to Shazam.com for more information.
From your mobile phone browser, and we'll redirect you to the right store. And download the core Shazam. It's one app that does all of this. There's no separate apps, so just get the core Shazam app. Use it for music, use it for television shows and ads, and in the future there'll be more coming as well.
God, I love it. David, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. You've been very candid. I'm as you can see, I'm very enthusiastic about what you guys are doing. I love it. I'm not getting paid by Shazam to be this excited about it, but when you see a technology that's going to disrupt an industry, I got to bring it to you guys. I have to. And you have to understand it. So we'll be here until you do, and hopefully you do by now. So David, thank you so much for being a part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I've been speaking with David Jones, who's the EVP marketing for Shazam Entertainment. Go to Shazam.com. That's with SHAZ or ZAM.com. Go and look at it in any app store, app world, or marketplace that your device goes to. Download the application, and if you're in the States, and or anywhere where there's a Shazamable ad or any kind of media, reach out. Leave a comment where you found this episode. I'd love to hear about it, the experience. Might even have you on. So if you're interested in doing that, I'd love to hear about how things are going with your experience with the Shazam ad, and I'm sure that David and his team would like to know as well. So thank you guys for watching, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I really appreciate the fact that you spend a little bit of time here at Untether.tv listening or watching to the videos. And we'll be back next time for another episode of Untether.tv. David, thank you so much.
You're welcome.